Hey, Spiritual Chuck here. Turned the phone on at 10:54 after laying down for a little while with my ground wire, allowing myself to normalize my cells, and fell asleep and woke up, and here I am. Ah, man, my mind is pretty clear. You know, one of the things that I was just sitting here thinking about was how important it is to relate um, to the effects that I'm being exposed to with the atmosphere and the technology and stuff like that. Excuse me. While I'm also excuse me, while I'm also talking about enlightenment, because without that explanation of the pressures of the influences of the atmosphere, of the circumstances, the environment, it's like understanding that I'm not really myself when my cells have been rounded up and, they're being herded around, and in a large degree, I'm really not. It's like, well, who am I? Well, I'm Chuck under the influence of these circumstances. So am I the same Chuck? What if you wake up and talk to me in the middle of the night when I've normalized my cells? Do I sound like the same person? Do I sound like the same person that I do when I'm doing daytime videos and I'm out and about in it? I mean, right now I'm in the forest and I'm exposed to about 8 or 9 on my meter, which is not the lowest. The lowest is like 5, that my meter shows up at 5, but I mean, that's probably the lowest it goes. So I mean, I don't know how many times I've had a full release from these influences, but it's pretty dramatic of a change. And one of the things that I noticed was I went back and listened to some of my nighttime videos, and actually during the day I had a hard time listening to them because I was losing my patience with myself. And when I speeded it up, I sounded kind of funny, So it's like, wait a minute. Who's talking to who here? I mean, what's really going on? So anyway, I got up a little late this morning because I rested. And it's like, I really needed to rest. I didn't realize I needed to rest, and I really didn't want to rest. I wanted to get up this morning and head on out fully packed. But instead I slept in a little bit, just kind of took it easy. And then about 2 in the afternoon or something like that, I realized that I was out of water. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about too, was that I really realized the value of good water on this journey. Like right now, like I can get a bottle of Aquafina and it's just like heaven. It's like drinking that water is like heaven. It just, there's an honesty and a purity and a trust that I have with pure water. Now, granted, I don't have my parts per million meter tester, but I have tested it in the past, and it's also, I can tell the difference, and it just makes a big difference. When I drink rock water, I call it, one of the things that happens is I have a tendency towards heartburn. I don't know why. I had earache when I washed my ears out with spring water. It stayed in my ear, and my ear festered, and uh, it's cleared up. But it took a long time for it to clear up. But I I just kept washing it out with good water and my water, and it finally cleared up. So anyway, I got out of the tent this afternoon and went down, walking down the highway, and realized that, man, I was about 3 miles from the nearest exit. And so I had a real good, strong, vigorous walk, and I really enjoyed myself. And I was able to release a lot of anxiety and fear and all kinds of things with that walk. And I didn't have my pack, so I could walk pretty fast. And I did. And I walked down the highway, and um, felt a lot of courage and faith. And there's an interesting thing that I wanted to mention, though, about the dichotomy between being by myself and being with others. And here's what it is. It seems as if sometimes when I'm by myself, I do feel some insecurities and some, I just don't know as well. Sometimes it seems like, what's going on. It's like, almost like I'm not in touch with the world in a way that I am when I'm with someone else. And that's kind of a spiritual significance to that, I think. And what I think about it is that when I'm by myself, I'm closer to the Father, let's say, and being closer to the Father, I'm closer to that incomprehensibleness in that pure consciousness that's beyond thought, that's beyond action. And so being there, if I try and more or less interject the mother into that peaceful space, she comes through kind of, I wouldn't say distorted. I would say she doesn't come through wholly, because into that space of the Father, almost as if, I don't know, crazy analogy would, she can't go into, the Father's office or something without feeling a little funny, or his sacred space, It's like, and I've never really thought about it like that before, but in thinking about it, it's really feels true. It's like, what's that old saying? You'll know the truth if it comes out of the mouth of a lion, or something like that. It's like, it feels like, and that would explain why sometimes when I'm by myself, and then, so let's say the mother is interjecting, or let's say I'm getting hit with some 5G or 300 million frequencies or whatever when I'm by myself. It's like, well, then, it's like, then it produces a kind of insecurity, or a dichotomy of the mother and how I feel towards the mother. You know what I mean? It would be like, almost like me getting, mad at the mother for no reason or something, or because she's coming in screaming at me, and I'm in meditation or something like that. It would be like that. It's like that's producing a real disruptive relationship between the mother and the father. It's like, I don't know how to better explain it. I know that but I had a real good walk, and I felt like I was in the mother because I'm walking down the highway and I'm getting exposed to all this energy, the physical and mental and even emotional. I was happy. I was joyful in my walk, you know. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's me abiding in the Father. That's more or less me abiding in the Mother, even though I was alone. I wasn't alone because, man, everything's there, you know. But anyway, I had a great walk and finally come to an exit and went down into the exit, and here's a big store. I'm not going to tell you the name of the store. I'm just going to say it's a big store, and um, I could go get some water, and I'm like, all right, and I come across these two young gentlemen that are standing outside of this I don't know what it was, a muffler shop or something like that, mechanic shop. And they're waiting on their truck. I thought they were on break, but come find out they were actually waiting on their vehicle to be repaired. And I got a chance to talk to both of them for a good long time. And they both sit and listen. They both stood there and listened to me. And I got to tell them just about everything. And I want to give a shout out to Luke and his friend, and I can't remember his friend's name. It's Stephen or Michael or anyway, shout out to both of you guys. Really enjoyed the talk, and I got a chance to talk to him about just about everything. Kids, how sensitive they are. The one gentleman, not Luke, but the other gentleman, finally asked me about my YouTube channel again after I had talked to him about his children. And and I looked at him afterwards, after we talked, after this long talk, and I said, so what are you going to do? I mean, really, what are you going to do? Because he agreed with me on so many things, and he realized so many things, and he understood, some of the negative aspects of that he'd already understood, And he said, well, what am I going to do? He said, I got kids to raise. And I'm like, yeah, I understand, man. It's like, well, what do you do with this information? Well, the only thing you can do, the only thing that I'm doing, is to try and be aware of it, and realize, that these demons are lurking, in terms of, and these technologies and things are there, and to be aware of them and to take precautions, not let your kids overexpose themselves to it. Make sure your home is safe. Get a Wi-Fi meter. You can get a Wi-Fi meter. It's $150. But what's $150 if you're frying? If you're in a microwave oven all the time, and you don't know it because you don't have a $150 meter to tell you. That's lessemf.com, I think, is where I got mine. It's an electrosmog meter, and it'll tell you what you need to know about your environment. This is an invisible environment. It's not something, and that reminds me of the importance of this walkabout. And I'll tell you what it is. until I whip that meter out and show somebody what they're experiencing, they're not getting it. They don't get it. It's like, well, they don't want to talk about it. It's non-existent until I show them proof that it's cooking them right now, right here, right away. And then it's like they really start comprehending the conversation and the importance of it. And that's one of the reasons that I really had to do this, because I felt like nobody was going to get it. I could make a YouTube video, I could, whatever, but until I got out here and showed them, and did it and walked the walk, and talked the talk, instead of, you know, s- just whatever, just sitting around nagging about it with everybody else and saying, well, the WHO, president of the WHO, came out and said that they were disappointed that there was only a 20% decrease in world population, and you know what that means? That means that he was disappointed that there was a 20% decrease in the world population. In other words, 20% of the people died, and their hopes were 50%. 50%. They wanted a 50% decrease in world population. It's like, what? Really? Wow. And that brings me to another point. I'll tell you what it is. I was laying here this morning, and I had some water. Well, I still had some water, and I had a little bit to eat. And I'm laying here looking at the trees. I'm laying down, looking through the tent at the beautiful trees and the sun and a little bit of breeze. And I really thought for a minute, I really realized how little I need to be happy. How little I need. And then all the while, these guys, they want to lower the world population, but at the same time, they're enamoring people with every kind of temptation, every kind of nonsense, every kind of false gratification, every kind of egoic, uh, manifestation, on and on and on. And these are the same people that are running the world. So they're providing all of this decadence, okay? And at the same time they're providing the decadence, they're, they're trying to eliminate us. I mean, just think about it for a minute. So, and then, if you can, have a morning, a simple morning, and lay around and in nature and have some good water, maybe a little coffee, and just be. And try and realize how little you really do need to be happy. And then turn around and look at your life and say, well, how much unnecessary decadence does my life, include? I mean, I'm looking at people's cars these days, and all the fancy ass cars, and all the, I walked by a sushi bar earlier today, and these three people got out and they looked like movie stars. Got out of a BMW. And I'm thinking, wow, man. Wow, wow, wow. Deep in it, It's like, okay. Look at Saudi Arabia. Look at Dubai. This guy paid, I forget what it was. $4 million or $40 million or something to get the #1 license plate to put on his car. I mean, really. What's Dubai famous for? Oil? Yeah, oil. I'm looking at the cars going down the highway, man. Unbelievable. And every one of them's got one person in it. I actually saw a car today that had 5 people in it. 3 big people in the back seat. And it looked like, there was a dead body in the trunk or something. You know what I mean? It's like it was riding low. And it's just like, that's the first, you never see that. It's like looked like there was a bunch of bags of concrete in the trunk or something. You just never see cars full of people. I mean, you do, don't get me wrong. But the majority is one person, There was a lady, when I was coming back, there was a lady that broke down on the highway, and she had a flat tire. And she was an Indian lady, really beautiful Indian lady. Shout out to her. I gave her one of my pieces of paper that had my YouTube channel on it, and she was like rolling the window up as I was trying to give it to her, and I'm like, look, don't freak out, don't be afraid, I'm not gonna hurt you. And anyway, she said she had a flat tire, and I came around to the driver's side, and I asked her if she needed help, and I didn't really want to help her because the sun was going down, and I don't have a flashlight, and I wouldn't be able to find my tent in the woods. It's so far back in the woods that I would have had a heck of a time. I've been lost in the woods more than once already. It's kind of wild, man. You really can get lost easy in the woods. But anyway, she was driving some fancy car. I forget what it was. And or a minivan, but it was like a really nice one. It was like super nice. And she said no, she had somebody coming. And I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. And I walk off, and I'm going to walk. And then here these guys come with their flashers on. I mean, just almost right away. And they're in a Land Rover, a white loaded Land Rover. 2 of them. I'm thinking, yep. These guys are loaded, man. Everybody's loaded. They just got it all. They got it all. So it's not just about 8 billion people. It's also about the resources that have been propagated in order to support these lifestyles. And you can say, well, you start taking away people's ability to live the way they want to live, but it's not about that. It's about what's being provided. People will take what's provided, And it's like, well, what's being provided? A lot of decadence. Anyway, I talked to these 2 guys. That was a great conversation. Fantastic. Shout out to you guys. Then I go into this store, right? And I'm walking up to this store. And here's a lady and a young girl. And they're sitting there waiting for a ride. Come to find out later that it was a taxi that she was waiting on. And I'd already gone into the store and came out of the store, and they were still there. And the first thing I told him was, I said, you really should find a place that you can sit, that you can be grounded. Because they weren't grounded. And I showed her the meter and how much she was getting. And I told her the whole story. And I talked to her about her daughter. And I said, look, she's a little person. She's got a lot less cells than you do. She's a lot more susceptible to these energies. And, her daughter had a kind of a shout out to them. Shay is the mother, and Honesty is the daughter. And Honesty sat and listened to what I was talking about quite a bit. I mean, she was just listening. She barely talked. It's like, and I don't know if She was a very well-mannered young girl. Got to give her that. But my question is why? I don't know. She was probably, is she getting blown away by the energies? You know, I don't know. It's like to the point where she's like speechless, and she barely smiled. I finally got her to smile. And it's like, man, maybe she was hearing me. I don't know. Maybe it was scaring her. But she wasn't gonna smile. And anyway, I showed her mom the meter while her phone was on and stuff, and told her about how important it was to ground out. I said, honestly, when you get home, make sure you take your shoes off and run around the backyard. You know, make sure you're in touch with Mother Earth. You know, and when you're done with your car ride or whatever, to go ground out so you can normalize your cells. Maybe even to get a meter so you can check your home. It's pretty wild, folks. It's all pervasive. It's everywhere, man. So anyway, I go to the store. I talk to one old lady that barely has enough time and patience to listen to me, and I tell her about how important it is to drink good water. And then she's like, oh, okay, well, I'm trying to shop here. I'm like, oh, okay. And she has like two things in her hand. She's over there in the soda section, and she's like, I got it, I got to shop here. And she picks out a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke. And this is an old lady. This is not a young lady. This is an old lady. And I'm like, And I even offered to try and carry it back for her because she was old. She couldn't walk. No, I got it. I'm thinking, yeah, you got it all right. You can't walk, and you got a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke in your hand. Okay. All right. So I get back up there, right? I get some good water. Aquafina. And I go up there, and as I'm going up there to pay for it, there's nobody. I have to use a machine to pay for it because there's no tellers. There's no human beings up there being cashiers. There's like one. And this is a giant store. Anyway, let me tell you something. I go by this lady, and this is a beautiful lady. She's taller than me. She's an African American woman. She looks like Aphrodite. She's just beautiful. And she's got a little girl in the shopping cart. And her little girl is just raising hell, having a fit, and not stopping. She's like suffering, right? I mean, she's just miserable, and there's nothing mom can do to help her. It's not that she wants anything. She's suffering, right? And I just immediately, just naturally walked up to her. And I had no business doing that because she was just so beautiful. She was like a movie star, And shout out to her. I don't know if she got my name or not. In the middle of all this, I tried to tell her, and I showed her the ground wires on my boots. I showed those boys too, those young men, my ground wires on my boots, and said I can't walk without these on. My knees want to go out. My feet start hurting. Everything starts aching. Anyway, I showed her my ground wires, and I told her, I said, just be sure and ground her out. I said, I said, right now she's in an antenna. She's sitting in that basket, and it's like an antenna for all the energies that are in the atmosphere. I said, and she's being exposed to all of those, and she's suffering from it. I've seen a lot of kids suffer uh, and just uncontrollable fits, right? And so she's still trying to console her, but there's no consoling her. And then she finally tells me that she's autistic, and she does pick her up and take her out of the basket. And she says she's autistic. And I'm like, wow. And I thought about it, and I don't have any real experience knowing about autism, okay, except this. I know that they're really sensitive, okay? It's like they're sensitive to everything that they experience, They're sensitive to the feelings of the other person. They're sensitive to the environment, the atmosphere, probably the electrosmog. They're definitely sensitive to the electrosmog. And it's like, so, it's kind of interesting that people would start producing these children that are super sensitive, after all of the exposure and the things that are happening, Wi-Fi, 300 million frequencies per second penetrating the plasma wall of the human cell into the DNA with a two-way RF signal. It's a two-way radio to your DNA with 300 million frequencies per second, rounding up your cells, herding them around. Anyway, it makes me really think about talking to people about their children. The children are experiencing what we're experiencing times 5. I'm a sensitive guy. I'm feeling it. I'm getting COVID symptoms. If I walk around with my phone on, I'll start feeling it. I really will. It's like I'm gotten to the point where my body is, less tolerant of these energies. It might wind up getting me, especially with this YouTube channel and my level of exposure on that. I looked at the clock; it was 33 minutes exactly. It's like Christ, 33. It's like sacrifice here. They're gonna sacrifice my ass. Excuse my language. The cuss words are going to stop the kids from being able to watch this. Oh man. Try not to cuss, because Google, Google listens to every word I say. Do you realize that? That there's a transcript for this video? That means they've recorded every word I've said. And I mean, like, they got it. They got it down. And put it in the written word. It's pretty wild, huh? So anyway, I talked to Shay and Honesty and then that lady. And then I'm like running out of time, running out of daylight. I'm like, well, what am I going to eat? Oh, no, first I went over to the gas station and charged the phone to 58%. And I talked to Taylor. Taylor's running the gas station. And I got to talk to him, man. He's a super cool dude. He's like getting fried. He's in this little cubicle thing. And he's running this gas station. And he's looking at me like, like his eyes are shrunken. Like you can't see all the way. That's what happens with Wi-Fi. It shrinks your eyeballs. It cooks you. Took the meter out, showed him he was at like like 2/3 on the meter. You know, he was getting hit with with Wi-Fi. I'm sure people walking in there with their Wi-Fi, their cell phones, everything. He's just exposed all day long. I told him a whole bunch of stuff. Told him about my channel, gave him a paper with it on it, and he was just kind of like in disbelief a little bit, because it's like what I'm telling him is like so far out there. And but I think he really got it. I went back in a couple of times and talked to him some more and told him I loved him and God bless him, and you know, check my channel out. And you know, I tell everybody, I say, turn your stuff off at night. Turn it all off. Turn the Wi-Fi off. Turn the cell phones off. Turn the smart bulbs off. Ground out if you can. Get a ground wire. Try and use earplugs during the day, because 80% of the radiation we receive is through our ears. I use wet earplugs all day, every day, unless I'm talking to somebody. And so, you know, these are the advices that I give people. And I thanked him for letting me charge my phone. I asked him unabashedly. I said, "Hey, have you got any you know, expired food that you're throwing out, or did you put any in the dumpster? Can I go check your dumpster?" And he's like, "No, I better not let you do that." Okay. Anyway, so I'm like walking down there, and that's when I saw those people in front of the sushi bar. And then I looked back behind the sushi bar, and they didn't even have a real dumpster back there. So I was like, nah. And then I saw the Burger King. And man, I went over there and I kind of snuck in the dumpster. But they got the dumpster right by the drive-thru. So they saw me. Okay, but not before I found a half a hamburger. And I found some coffee, and I found some chicken nuggets and some French fries. And I kind of had that all in a bag, right? And then guess what? Here comes this lady with backup. She brought another employee out there too, and said, "You can't be doing that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, no problem." And then I proceeded to tell her real fast. I said, "Yeah, I dumpster dive." I said, "My name is Spiritual Chuck, and I'm making a YouTube channel, walking across the country." She's like, "Really? No kidding." So she actually got my YouTube channel, and while she was kicking me out of the dumpster. And then I snuck over there around the back of Waffle House and got in there and got a couple of pieces of perfectly good sausage. I mean, that's all that was there. So I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll eat it. And then I hustled back to my tent so that I wouldn't get lost in the woods. And so that's pretty much what I did today, guys. You know, and I'm still pretty chill because I didn't turn my phone on. My phone's on airplane mode. So I appreciate you chilling with me, and I hope you're able to listen to this. You may have to listen to this in the middle of the night, you know, after you've normalized yourselves to really appreciate it. Maybe I'll put that as my title: Normalize Yourselves Before Watching. You know, I wonder who's going to get that. Okay, well, peace, love, and light, and do not be afraid of the dark. God lives in the dark. The Father, the stillness, the incomprehensible, space, you know. The Mother's the galaxy, Father's space, you know, beyond time, beyond space. Even the EMFs coming off this phone sometimes are so much that it's like, it kind of makes me want to cramp up. I've got a feeling my stomach wants to cramp up right now. I just grabbed my ground wire. You'd be surprised how fast the ground can help you feel better. You guys remember that, okay? God bless the children and the animals and all the people. Try and keep it simple, you know. Keeping it simple also keeps you healthier. You don't eat a bunch of junk, you know. I'm just kind of eating what I can, what's there, what's provided, and staying in the waters. If I stay in the waters, I can eat anything. That's what Jesus said in the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Nag Hammadi. He said, eat what they offer and then tell them the truth. They had 9 wells on Medea with steps. I know what was in those wells. Some of what was in those wells was aged urine and rainwater, you know. Anyway, it's like, why did the Romans want to kill the Jews so bad? What did they have going that the Jews were so afraid of? What did they know? You know, they knew a lot more than a lot of people realize. You know, one more thing: the Greeks, the Romans, and the Jews all used urine for their laundry. They sure did. And the best urine was aged urine. It'll clean anything. It's amazing. It'll clean you if you put it in you. It cures heartburn immediately. And if you stay in good water, that also cures heartburn. And there's a lot of heartburn going on. I drank some Dasani today and almost immediately got heartburn. I'm like, what? I found a bottle of Dasani on the highway and I was like, wow, oh no, this guy gave me a bottle. He was fixing his truck tire on the side of the highway and he gave me a bottle of Dasani and I took a couple swigs of it and that's all I wanted to drink. I mean, I wasn't going to drink it unless I needed it because I know better. But anyway, as soon as I took some, yeah, I felt some heartburn coming on. I'm like, wow, amazing. It's like my body doesn't like rocks anymore. That's what's in it, rocks, minerals. They put minerals in, added minerals. Where are those minerals from? Are they from fruits and vegetables? Are they organic minerals? Or are they minerals from the ground? We're not designed to metabolize minerals from the ground. We're 100% organic. You know what I mean? We're designed to metabolize vitamins and minerals from organic plants. Period. We cannot metabolize rocks or minerals or metals or nothing. All we can do is pass them if we're lucky. If not, then our fat cells encapsulate them and set them aside, and then we lose our original shape and we start getting fat. I talked to a guy today that was about 3 times the size that he's supposed to be, and told him about my channel. Shout out to this dude. I'm not even going to say who he is or where he was at when I met him, but shout out to you. I hope you watch the channel, bro. And sorry I didn't get to make the purchase that I wanted to make, but it all worked out. God bless you, bro. Both of you guys. And thanks for talking with me. All right. Virtual Chuck, in and out.